Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks to you guys for coming out. This is our first public discussion session since the COVID started. We don't have a formal agenda. I mean, we try to do that, but there's several items we need to talk about today. And on your printed agenda that Ella just handed you, Tucker has to talk to us about the mowing, so that's going to be on there too, because we need to get that so that we can have it at our business meeting on the 19th. We're going to start out today with Keith Keck is going to come and speak with us. Keith is our, are you the Justice of the Peace?
Justice of the Peace, that's what the right term is.
Is that the right term?
That's the right term.
Would you want to come up here, sir?
I will.
Thank you. He wants to talk to us about the November election issue, number one on the highway funding, and also talk to us about the rural grant broadband application. Thanks, Keith.
Thanks. How many of you were here 10 years ago and went through this issue one? At that time, I forgot what the issue number was, but it has to do with a half-cent sales tax, which we're paying right now. And this goes to the state. Well, we passed that interim half-cent sales tax back in the 2012 timeframe. It was only good until 2023. On the ballot, we're going to see issue one, which is the permanent half-cent sales tax. So I want to kind of bring this out because previously, 10 years ago, the POA board made a resolution to support that. So I brought this up to the Government Affairs Committee at their last meeting, and they asked that I come here and talk to the board about a potential resolution. The resolution's just basically saying whether you want to support it or not out there. But let me talk a little bit about what this does and what it has done for Hot Springs Village. How many Nextdoor fans do I have here right now? A few people on Nextdoor. There's a ongoing discussion right now about Highway 5 that has gone on out there because of the safety issue. How many of you can picture driving Highway 5 in 2015? That was a very narrow road, had no shoulders out there. How many of, yeah, Kirk?
1979.
Kablong, 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 kablong. Why I bring that up is issues like Highway 5, the repaving, and the widening were the result of the half-cent sales tax out there, that the state had the money that they would go out and do something like that. Folks are familiar with the bypass extension right now. It's only about a $70 million project. The Pave It Forward is paying $30 million of that. The other $40 million is coming out of state and federal funds. If we did not have the half-cent sales tax, I'll be very honest with you, you wouldn't have seen the bypass extension funding be approved by the state. I'm using these as examples because we as villagers like to look internally and say, what's this doing for us on DeSoto Boulevard? Well, I'll be very honest, nothing, because we're a gated community. But as soon as you break those gates, whether it's east, west, Balboa, Danville Gate, the only one to have where I say anything is the Cortez Gate if you're lost and you go out the north side. That's where issue one has a direct impact on us as villagers. If we want to continue to see roads out there that get repaved or get what they need out there, this is where the money is coming from out there. Issue one raises about $205 million per year for the state. The state, the governor, and the legislature did about $95 million of a state highway plan to go along with the federal funds. This will come up to over $700 million a year to fix the statewide highway problem and road problem, which Arkansas has some challenging roads. For Charles, welcome to Arkansas. Hopefully you didn't run off the road anyplace on any of the Arkansas roads. What I'm saying is, if this funding goes away, you're losing $205 million. What does that mean to Saline County and Garland County? $1 million apiece a year out of their road budgets. So those roads out there like Danville Road, which the two bridges, they used to be one-lane bridges, are now two-lane bridges. That's what Rick Davis, when he was a county judge, committed dollars to coming out of this type of funding. So I would just, to the board and to look at a resolution to be supportive of this, because even though the money's not coming inside our gates, it's definitely going right outside our gates there. So any questions from board members on issue 1?
No, but just to be clear, this is not a new tax. This is simply a permanent
Yes.
extension to what was done through 23.
This is a permanent extension of what was already done 10 years ago. And the board came out 10 years ago and supportive of this. And I'll be very honest, I think the village supported it 2/3 to almost 3/4 people because of the impact that it's had there. Again, it's funded some nice stuff. I mean, someday it's going to be really nice to jump on that bypass extension and go down to Hot Springs there. And that's 2 years out. Any other questions from that? So just wanted to let you know. Okay, and the second issue I want to talk about is broadband. The Saline County judge and myself have worked with Aristotle Communications. Aristotle Communications is a broadband firm that has a big presence in Pulaski County and then into eastern Saline County to go after Arkansas Rural Connect dollars. If you're not familiar with the Arkansas Rural Connect, it was a program that the governor initiated about a year ago to put some money towards fixing rural broadband. Subsequent to that, the CARES Act has also added additional money to the broadband initiatives out there so that rural areas can go out and submit grants for this funding. Total funding between the two programs is just short of $30 million. What Saline County and Judge Airy has decided is to submit 2 applications. One application is for the Traskwood and East End area, which is a continuation of what Aristotle is. The other one, which directly impacts us here in Hot Springs Village, is a Western Saline County grant application that would run from Lonsdale, and as Jason walks in, Lonsdale, from his area in Lonsdale, up through Owensville, Crows, to Perrin, and then backing into Hot Springs Village, because we have some areas like where Diana lives that doesn't have 25.3 capability. When I say 25.3, it's 25 megabits download, 3 megabits upload. We have places in the village that are just basically right above DSL and out there. But what this does is it would open up an area. The key to this grant is that you need to have the really unserved areas, which if you go to Perrin, or you go to Lonsdale, or you go to Crows, they don't have kind of anything really good. But by tying in with them, this allows Aristotle Communications to compete for this grant, and then their goal is to come right back up and hit into the village, both our unserved and our underserved areas, as well as be a potential competitor for some of the other services already here. Their goal, or the way they work their service, is fiber to antennas, so it's fixed wireless, that they'd be looking to running the fiber into the areas and then putting up their towers. Lloyd, you had asked a question about what would Aristotle be looking for from the POA? What they would really be looking for POA is the utility access. Just like you have AT&T, Suddenlink, anything like that, they're going to need access to some of those areas so that they can run either, it's going to be their fiber in there, or if it's where they need to put their tower. And potentially they may come back and look at some of the towers that are out here and ask for access to the towers when you look at their system, and they do the fixed wireless portion of it. But this is something that is, again, brings additional broadband. It may not be the 1 gigabytes that Suddenlink promises, and I don't know if anybody in the village who's supposed to be getting 1 gigabytes is getting 1 gigabytes. But Southern promises that they're looking at bringing in the basics of 25.3 to get it to folks, and then they can move up from there. So, any questions on that? Marcy?
About a month ago, we made a motion and carried it so that Greg would GIS the survey results. Have
Mhm.
we seen that?
We have not seen it. I was just talking to Patrick over there. He said he was working on it, but it would be nice to see that so we could turn it over to Aristotle, because that'll allow them to know where they want to go also.
Do you know when that's going to be completed?
I'd have to ask him. Greg's not here to.
Okay.
But yeah, that is, Aristotle did the survey, their own survey. I know Garland County is doing their ongoing survey for broadband, because they have a potential need out in western Garland County and northern Garland County too, and they're looking, I think it's Cox, who's looking at presenting or putting in for a grant application also.
So the one we're doing, Aristotle doesn't need that?
Aristotle does not, well, it would be nice, once Aristotle did their own survey, they've identified how they're going to engineer it. And I wish I could show you how they're going to engineer, but until the application actually goes in and it's finalized, it would just show how they're going to engineer it. But it does, their engineering documents show us how it's going to come across.
So they don't need the one?
They don't need specifics right now, but it would be nice for them to know where to target, especially if, we have a neighborhood who's having some challenges, to go and offer that service to them. So, but again, all these are pieces that need to come together. But I just want to say that we have the judges signed off on it, and it's just a matter of getting that grant application in. Lloyd?
So what would you suggest from the board in terms of support? I mean, is a board vote in the minutes adequate enough?
I don't think that you need a board vote, right? Aristotle, it's just being supportive and letting Charles know to be supportive, because Aristotle will probably, once the grant application's in, the goal is to bring Aristotle in here with their technical people and their leadership, and sit down with Charles and the board and kind of explain where they're going. But until that piece of document is in, and it should be a pretty quick turnaround whether it's going to be yes or no from the state.
Okay.
Because especially the CARES Act money has to be committed by the end of the year. So they need to, the state's not going to sit on these, applications. That's what I'm kind of saying.
Jason, would you anticipate that what they would need, they being Aristotle, that what they would need would be similar to what AT&T and Suddenlink and these various contractors that are coming in here and running some fiber, or have been running fiber this summer, would need, that our people mark out our water lines and sewer lines so that they don't run into them?
That is correct. We
Yeah.
definitely want to coordinate with any utility company that wants to come in and locate their utility inside of our right of way. Absolutely. Or common property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's what they'll be asking for.
Right.
They have actually been in the village quietly, looking around, but it's just not been
Sure.
coming out and doing it.
Just one more question. Who's writing the grants?
The grant, actually, a combination between Judge Airy, myself, and the Aristotle leadership. So with the grant submission, it's pretty, I wouldn't say pretty easy, but it's fill in a lot of information and present it to the state broadband officials. And they're the ones who will make the decisions. And again, the grants have to be in by mid-August, and the last draft I saw yesterday was really ready to go. It just, if they push the button to send it out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Pam?
It was my understanding that Aristotle's technology was based on basically black boxes that they've been putting onto
Yep.
streetlights. We don't have a lot of streetlights here. How would Aristotle address that issue if they were to come?
That's
in?
where they might need help to say, hey, we need to put a pole up here, we need to put a pole up there. That's where the POA help could come in also. They're trying to take it up to Diana's area, in that area.
She'll
They
put
don't
up
have-
a pole? in
I've
a
got
heartbeat.
3 streetlights.
Yeah, so,
Oh.
but that's where some assistants say, hey, give us access to put a pole up here, or let's put it out there, so. Those are the type of things when Lloyd, you ask about.
It's my understanding too that from talking with the, since this is an ongoing issue in our neighborhood regarding wireless, I kind of, there's different ones in the neighborhood. There's 3 houses up there. And we got it from an AT&T engineer last month, told us that, hey, that fiber that we laid down ponds, there's gonna be some little poles going up that are gonna have little bitty satellites coming off of them, and we're gonna be able to feed that from the cell tower to your houses. So don't know what that really means, but they don't offer, AT&T now stopped offering fixed wireless to some places in the village because they've been running this fiber connecting, somehow it connects back to their cell towers, beyond me. And this is what Aristotle, one of the areas they're looking into, is do they run fiber, or do they go to the next generation of connecting into cell towers, which means they would probably construct cell tower type things.
Yeah, and they're gonna make the decision, Pam, and come to, the POA. The key to this is, we are, Aristotle in conjunction with Saline County, to go after the grant money. Because I will be very honest with you, if the grant money doesn't come,
We can't do it.
yeah, Aristotle's not gonna come into the village. That's just kind of, because it's kind of that, they gotta make money on it. So they have their figures, we're not privy to their figures from the county side, but we know that this is an incentive to get some of the state grant money to offset some of their cost.
And did we ever determine what the kind of relationship, what the offering was between Aristotle and our former CEO?
From the decision, anything that I found in talking to Aristotle, there was no formal, here's what we committed to.
Okay.
I should say we committed to, what the POA committed to. So Aristotle, that's why Aristotle, and this was a discussion that kind of Lloyd and I had via email, is what do you, here's what we would need, but there was no firm commitment that, we're going to give you access, plowing through whatever this, or we're going to do this or do that type of stuff.
Okay.
So that is, I know that was a concern, but their expectations are, kind of what a regular utility, what the AT&Ts, the Suddenlinks of the world are, to help them facilitate this, getting this additional competition. And literally there's competition in some areas of the village, and some places it's going to be new type of stuff there. And then once you break outside the village, a lot of that is, I don't say virgin territory, but those folks out in Crows and in Perrin, this is something that's why we're all combining together, because that makes us more attractive in western Saline County to get the grant money. If we tried to do this for the village only, we wouldn't be competitive for that money. So this is kind of,
They probably don't have anything for all those houses that run down Narrows Road either, do they? I mean, Perrin goes one way from Crows and then
once you, like I said,
Once you
when
get
you
there.
look, you go down Perrin, come into Crows, and go down Narrows into where Jason, because Jason, you're still on satellite, or you do, most of your people aren't satellite out there.
I'm on cellular.
So, yeah, so.
Okay. Well,
But those are the 2 issues I want to bring you guys up to. Again, we're going back to asking for a resolution for the highway issue.
And I want to thank you too, Keith, for what you've done in helping to get some extra patrol out there on Highway 5 since we had the tragic accident where one of our villagers lost their life with the logging truck. And there's been some other logging truck issues too out there. They're logging quite a bit, and those things are dangerous. So I really appreciate you stepping up to help protect our people. Thank you.
And I would just tell you that the curve that unfortunately Bob Feckler lost his life in is scheduled to be fixed. There's a curve remediation project for that. It's been sitting, waiting for the contract to be let. So that's the unfortunate part, is that curve is one of the bad, notorious curves, and it just didn't work. Kirk, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the utility easement rights that CCI might have an effect on this. Have they been contacted?
Early on, I made mention of it to Jody. I don't know how often Jody comes down here. Is she down here? Yeah, I didn't think she came down here that much. But that we were looking at it. We could circle back around. I can have a county judge circle back around, because that, I think, carries a little more weight when Jeff Airy calls, type of thing.
Cooper won't have a problem with
Yeah.
this.
Type of stuff there, so. Okay, thank you, folks. Have fun. I like your, I'm sitting here looking at Quorum Court. If we couldn't sit like this because we don't have enough room, so.
Well, actually, this was kind of a coincident thing. We're going back to the other setup.
Okay, yeah, this is kind of like, I don't know, playing in a big stadium these days.
Well, you know, they're gonna start football practice, but you can't touch. All right, John O'Brien is here with us today, and John is the director of our Hot Springs Village Chamber of Commerce. John thought he was coming to the village to retire, and I don't know, I think he kind of got roped into this job before you even got here, didn't you?
I may have described it as roped at first,
But he's loving it now, and he's great for his job, so thanks, John.
thank you very much. In fact, I am John O'Brien, John Patrick O'Brien, born on St. Patrick's Day. Since we don't know each other very well, I only know a couple of you a little bit. I'll give you an introduction to me by way of numbers. I know that's kind of difficult to see from a far way away. And I don't probably need that microphone, but if you can't hear me, please let me know and I'll fetch back into the barn. First number that might help describe me is the number 66. Thank you. Number 66 is both my age as well as a sad story. I owned a 1966 Ford Mustang for 41 years. And the two of us put 1,043,000 miles together. It was my everyday car, and only recently in December did I part ways with my beautiful Mustang. It is now in the hands of a collector in Paris, France, where he promises not to drive it, but allow that horse to go out to pasture. 33 is another number that helps identify me. I spent 33 years in the corporate world, and I escaped without a cardiac arrest. How about that? Pretty impressive. I was in the human resources field for many different industries, ended up being a senior executive in human resources. The number 11 is also on the screen. 11 years I spent as a public school teacher, most recently, and retired in December. I taught senior English at the high school level in Humble, Texas. Also very happy to have left Humble, Texas. 46, what is that number all about? 46, well that's the number of days that I've actually lived in the village. I lived here temporarily since March 9th when I began with the chamber. So Mr. King, I'm just a little bit ahead of you, but not much. Maybe we can join up and go find the other 290 streets here together. The number 36, that's the number of homes that I have lived in. I was an Air Force brat as a child. I lived all over the world, Europe and the Middle East primarily. I was born in the US, so I can still be president, but no, thank you. This is my 36th home, and I've told everyone, and I mean it, this will be my last home. This is where I want to stay for the rest of my days. Enough about me, let's talk a little bit about the Chamber. The Chamber of Commerce has been around for 23 years. Every single year financially successful, which in the nonprofit business means you broke even. And that's what we aim for every single time, since 1997. Our staff is modest. We have 2 full-time employees. That would be Faith, if you know Faith, and me, just the 2 of us, and take care of the Visitor Center and the Chamber of Commerce together. We do have a profoundly talented group of volunteers who help us. They give us a half a day a week. They sit at the front desk and they greet lots and lots of people. A lot of villagers come to the chamber to find out information they might have known at one time and have forgotten. And a lot of visitors who would come to the village come to our office. Why do they come to our office? Well, we're at that scary gate on the west side, and they drive up and they see that gate and they go, oh my goodness, and they look up at these 3-foot letters that say Visitor Center. And so they congregate where we are, and we try and take care of them in many different ways. Something else you might want to know is that we have a board of directors that is comprised of 14 individuals now. It started out as 7 people, and that board has grown, as has the chamber, which is appropriate for representation. Our bylaws call for one of the members of our board to be from the POA executive team. And so right now Jason does serve in that capacity and does so well and represents the POA well. We are located at the Cordova Center. If you don't know that, because a lot of you are East Siders and might not get over our way very often. Cordova Center is that group of buildings right there just before that gate. By the way, throw something at me if I say West Gate today. I'm trying to change my language to call that the Highway 7 gate. I don't want to participate in the West versus East. Feels like the Civil War all over again. Our financial model is that of a 501c6 corporation. Even though we are not for profit, we are not seen as a charity because we do support profit businesses. So 501c6 is separated mainly for chambers of commerce or other industry promoting businesses that are also nonprofit. Our community role is that of both the Chamber of Commerce and the Visitor Center, because they are two overlapping but different businesses. The Chamber of Commerce is primarily charged with supporting the development of commerce, the movement of money in both directions through our community. On the other hand, a visitor center is a little different than that. A visitor center is a supplier of initial information to take a visitor from being a stranger to more like a neighbor. And that process takes a long time to get them to become a neighbor, and we start by planting that seed very early. Chamber services that we offer our members and to the community in general, we are really the front door to the village. I know there are many doors to the village, and I have been to all of them. And yes, Judge, or Justice of the Peace, I did get lost and go out Cortez one time. Really easy to get lost. What I mean by the front door of the village is this. If you go to Google Maps today and try and route yourself from Chicago, Atlanta, New Orleans, Dallas, or Fort Worth, even San Francisco, Google Maps will take you to the village through the East Gate. I don't know exactly why it lays out that way, but I intend to kind of re-aim Google Maps toward the larger piece of commerce, which would be the west side, and that gate I'm now calling the Highway 7 gate. I happen to have an in with Google. I was one of their pioneers when they started mapping. And so when I give them input on a change, the change of hours of operation, the change of a location, like Arvest Bank moving from our parking lot down to the Walmart area, Google Map will take my word for it and they'll make those changes. So hopefully we'll be able to get them to aim in a better direction, because it takes you to Eastgate, it takes you through and across Diamante, and it parks you at Carmona and DeSoto. I don't know exactly why that's where they would think the village is, but that's where they think it is. I guess if you have young children, that's the perfect place to go. The Highway 7 gate, as you must know, you travel through there all the time, and traffic seems to be getting thicker and thicker, even in the 5 months that I've been here, has 5 full-service banks, 10 restaurants, and 5 realty agencies, all within 1.5 miles of that gate. So that's the place that a lot of visitors go when they want to go see the villages. They tend to gravitate toward that gate, irrespective of Google Maps. The visitor center, of course, is directly in front of the gate. It's the perfect place to be, because when they make that turn off of Highway 7 and they see that guard shack, sorry, it's not a guard shack, it's a guard facility, some people get a little scared, and the first place they can go is that visitor center. And we get to explain to them the nature of our gated community, as well as the nature of our love of people coming to visit our area and find the benefits. Last year, in 2019, over 3,300 people crossed the threshold at our Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. Do you know how many real estate agents would love to have 3,300 almost pre-screened leads walk into their office? This is a huge number of people coming to visit the facilities in general that we call Hot Springs Village. That's a traffic count worth paying attention to. That front door of the village. When people do come to see us, we tend to give them maps, because one of the first things they want to know is what's the lay of the land. And they are amazed to see the map that we give out. And we also have it on our walls so that people can get an idea of the length and breadth of what we call the village. We give them business guides so they have information about local advertisers, certainly members of the chamber who are trying to build their businesses. We also invite out of our, how many members did we have?
326.
326. You can tell I used to be a teacher. Good job. We'll give you a red star for that. Out of that 300 plus membership that we have, approximately 200 of our members keep a constant stock of brochures in our center, so that when visitors come, we can point them in the direction of churches. We can point them in the direction of clubs and organizations, restaurants, dining facilities, etc., etc. So they have a really good view of what the village offers. Other services that we offer is the Realtor on Duty program. We currently have a relationship with 15 of our real estate professionals in the area. Each one of them commits to spend 2 days per month, so 15 times 2, 30-day month. 2 days per month, and they are the Realtor on Duty, and they are in our offices most of the time that we are open. They love this advantage because they have the one and only shot at a visitor walking in the door. They're the first realtor that they will meet. So they do pay us a modest fee for that privilege of being the on-duty realtor. And we've gathered a wee bit of rent there that helps offset some of our expenses. But a lot of visitors go into a lot of visitor centers around this country and they don't have that privilege, or they don't have that, an advantage to see a realtor right away. Because under normal conditions, we aren't allowing people in the gated community unless they are escorted. And the realtor would be the perfect escort. We also offer meeting space to our members. They're in the chamber offices, and we offer that for free. In fact, all of our services that we offer to our members are for free. Some of those other free services that we give, we have e-blast services. Now we're doing 3 publications a week. One that's exclusively restaurants, one that's exclusively realtors, and one of a general nature of all of our members. And they have the right and privilege of sending us material that we will then e-blast out. Now, it has a number up there, 1,200. I told you we have 326 members, but we have a following now, and it's growing every week, of 1,200 subscribers to our e-blasts. So a lot of people are interested in looking at the coupon offerings or the business professional offerings, and we keep them in touch by doing this on a full-time basis. We have another offering that we offer our members, and that is to join in on our Partner Up events once per month. We ask that those who can make it of our membership join with other members at a social event, but it's also a dining event. It's lunch. And they pay $15. They get a fixed meal or choice of a couple of meals, and they basically network with one another. When there is a presentation at our Partner Ups, it's 15 minutes, maybe 20. It might be a business owner who wants to profile their business and show the world what they're made of, or it might be a small panel of businesses that discuss a particular issue of interest. Along the same lines of networking, we also have an evening event called Alive After 5, where all of our members are invited, and for free, they get to have appetizers and drinks, including beer and wine, and they get to go to the actual facility of our member, so they can see what that operation is like. An excellent opportunity for networking, because you must know by now that that's the name of the game in business, particularly small business. Coming very soon, we're going to be offering our members professional learning workshops. In the profession that I was in the corporate world, that being in the training and human resources department, I've written and presented dozens of different workshops from 20 minutes to 20 hours. And they include communication skills and supervision skills and customer relation skills and on and on and on. And because that material was written by me, I own it. And because I own it, I'm going to give it right back to the community. So I'll be offering workshops, hopefully soon in person, but at least virtually, in the very near future. And we didn't want to offer 1 or 2. We want to start with a battery of 12 to 15 of those workshops. So hopefully people will find value in that too. Occasionally this likes to turn off. How do we support the POA? Well, that's a good question. That has evolved over the years. Over 23 years, and the records that I've been able to read of past executive directors, we've served the POA in different capacities. Right now, I'd like to sum it up by saying we really sell the village. Every day, every person who walks through that door, to some degree or other, is being sold the assets and the advantages of being a part of the village. We sell the lakes, we sell the trails, we sell the golf courses, we sell the tennis, the pickleball, we sell the miniature golf, and we sell the swimming pool and all the dining facilities that are here. We also sell the notion that the POA, unlike a lot of HOAs where they may have come from, in fact, the HOA I moved out of in Houston basically gave us new pansies 4 times a year. That's all we ever got for our money. So we sell the notion that the POA here is a comprehensive property management group. You don't get 1 water bill and 1 garbage bill and 1 sewer bill and 1 road maintenance bill. This is a comprehensive single buy, and people are amazed to hear that. They're also amazed to hear that the rate is relatively low. For the same dollars when I lived in Houston, I got pansies. Look what I get for my money now. We also sell the notion of lifestyle. The facts, the figures. What's going on in this village that would make it different? What's going to make you not just want to come here for the weekend, but come for the weekend a couple of times until you drop anchor? Because that's what the O'Briens did. The O'Briens had come up here 4 times previously. In fact, I stayed at a home across the street from Pam. Remember that, Pam? Pam and I met in the street walking dogs, and we struck up a quick relationship, discovered that we had California in common, and here we are back together again, Pam. It's nice to see you indeed. Lifestyle facts and figures, we've got a mountain of them, because as you must guess, when people come here once or twice, it becomes part of their fantasy. If only I could live there one day. Which brings up Diana's story. My wife and I had committed to come here long before I ever could spell Chamber of Commerce. We had committed to come this past December, and we went and walked into where? The Visitor Center, met a realtor, Pam Seibert. Pam became our realtor. Oh, Deb, Pam's over there, Deb Seibert. And Deb, after learning a little bit about my career, was saying, you know, John, the Chamber of Commerce could really use somebody like you to help them out. You've been in education, you've been a corporate executive, you know a lot about finance, you've owned 4 businesses yourself. Can you give me a copy of your resume, because I'd love to submit it? I said, absolutely not. I'm coming here to retire. I have projects to do. I have apps to write. I'm in the midst of finishing 2 movie scripts. Deb is persuasive. So she talked me into giving the resume, and here I am, happy as can be, because how better could you learn about the village than to be at the Chamber of Commerce? This has been great. What other ways do we support the POA? Well, vacation packages, be they Discover the Village, may they be Discovery packages, may they be Realtor vacation packages, almost all of those questions funnel down to our front door. People walk into our door going, I'm here to pick up my package. And we say, which package? And we don't know. So we do our very best to ambassador them through the process of picking up that package. We do serve the POA in that way, because when they do come to Discovery package, they almost always come to our gate, despite what Google Maps says. Vacation rentals in general. Even though Century 21 is literally 30 yards away from us around the corner, they invariably come to our door first, which we don't see as a burden at all. We see this as an opportunity to take an interested party and turn them into, eventually, a user of our services, if not a resident of the area. How else do we serve? We use the POA facilities a lot as a chamber. Our social events and our fundraising events tend to be centered on these properties. So when we need a banquet, when we need an awards ceremony, we almost always book it right here inside the POA's properties. Do I see opportunities for more synergies between the Chamber/Visitor Center and the POA? I do. I'm relatively new to this game. 4 days after I arrived, the country was shut down. And the guy who's supposed to go out and kiss babies and shake hands wasn't able to really even leave his office. That excuse is done, that is over with, I'm out here. And I'm out here to say, I think we have opportunities to better share our resources. The vacation packages I've talked about, opportunities for us to both serve each other's needs there. I think that one day, and I'm not talking about next week or next month, I think one day our facilities could serve as an events reservation center. Not to replace anything the POA is doing, but to augment and to be the face outside the gate for those coming for a reservation, for those that are confused. I think that we could also work as the neutral master calendar for the community. The POA's calendar, I don't know who in here might be in charge of that, but I'm impressed. It has layers of drill down in which you can look at just the kind of calendar event you're looking for, or it can roll it up into a master calendar. But it's still missing events that the POA might not be aware of. The Kiwanis Club's holding a cotton candy event. The Boys and Girls Club's having an event with a car show. Those aren't making it into that calendar because they don't think of the POA as the broker of that information. Would love to see us sometime in the future share the master calendar, everything the POA has going, plus everything going on outside the gates. Boy, this seems like a golden opportunity to me. Can you imagine going to a car dealer lot, finding the car of your dreams, talking to the salespeople for a little bit so they'll trust you enough to give you the keys. You go into the car, you're sitting there, the smell of that new car leather, you've started the engine, and the salesperson goes, oh, by the way, when you're done, just throw the keys over to the door. Thanks for coming in today. What a missed opportunity to close the sale. That is not the way a car dealership's ever going to be successful. But in a similar vein, we tend to do that. We bring people into our vacation rental properties. We allow them to enjoy what I call almost heaven. That's Hot Springs Village. And then they leave by throwing their keys in a box, and off they go. What an opportunity of waste. I want to talk to that person. I want to see how things went. I want to see what advantages they found to being here. I also want to see what things did not go well so we can learn our lessons and make it better. Real estate offices aside, we all have those lessons to learn from those visitors. But would you let that car be driven by someone and then just throw the keys at the door? That's no way to run an agency. And I think this is a missed opportunity to allow those people leaving the village from their vacation to come tell us their story so that we can learn from it. Right now in the world of formal education, both at the college level, high school, actually all the way down to middle schools and junior high schools, workforce development is the name of the game. Finally, America is waking up to the fact that not every single person who goes to high school needs to go to college. I've been in touch with the superintendents of schools in the area, and they're all singing the same tune. That is, we need to do a much better job of preparing people for the rest of the work world. And they are doing that, and they are receiving grants. And I think that we have a role to play as the chamber in that. I think that we can be that coordinator of internships and mentorships. And I really think that's a role that would make us tied together even more closely to our school systems in the area. Other minor opportunities for synergies. I have not experienced this myself. I have not attended a tennis clinic here or a tournament or a golf clinic or any of the great activities that go on here. But I know what happens is when those people from the outside sign up for these activities, they're given a piece of paper in the mail that says show up at 9 o'clock on October the 13th at, they call it the Westgate. They show up and they don't know where to go next. They don't know if they're in the right place. We have this gigantic parking lot that's it's empty almost every day. And we want to offer that up. Hang your banner. Use our facility. Welcome your tournaments. Welcome your trail walkers. Welcome the Audubon Society meeting. Bring them to a central point where they can feel like I have arrived, I am in the right place, and I now know what my next steps are. So we think that that would be an excellent role for us to play in support of everything that you're doing here. We would love to serve someday to be the pulse of the village. What does that mean? We're not going to take anything, we can't take anything away from all the efforts you're making now. We simply want to make them augmented and better. I know that we have an advantage that the POA will never have. A chamber tends to be viewed as neutral, apolitical, without an axe to grind, without an agenda. And we think that that can be used to your advantage. Can we be the place where people can come complain? Can we be where suggestions are gathered? Can we be the conductors of surveys to find out what villagers are up to and what they want and what they don't get and what they need? And see us as that neutral party who can scrub the names off and the addresses off and deliver the message to the POA, quite possibly. Other opportunities for synergies are abound. But overall, I see this all rolling up into a role called the concierge service. Can we be the receiving party for all that you do to make this place better? I think that's an opportunity for us all. I do have kind of a vision of creating a slightly different visitor center. I know that somewhere in the center, and I know this is hard for you to see, I didn't anticipate the room being quite this large, or we would have gotten some screens in here. But this display that I have a picture of here is a large relief map, 5 feet, 6 feet in length. I would love to see one of those made of the village, from west to Eastgate all the way. I would love to see it be true to life. Ideally, I'd love for people to be able to push a few buttons and go, oh, that's where Balboa Beach is. Oh, that's where the lookout is. Hey, we're going to be staying over here on Coronado, so we won't be very far away from the campgrounds. Some people learn about the village informationally. They retain things through auditory. Others need to see it. The others want to touch it. And I say, come on in and touch it. In fact, should our lobby turn into a display of what's going on here in the village? Should I have a set of clubs glued to the floor so they get a sense of golf? Should I have a water ski up on the wall or some walking trail sticks for sale so that people have an idea of these are the things that are going on here that attract you? I want not just a list of restaurants, I want the actual restaurant menus so people can see exactly what they're in for. The Audubon Society is very strong here. Can they have a display? Can they tell that there are over 200 different varieties of birds here? I'm watching them every day out my door. I think these are opportunities to sell the village even better. The front door of the village, what does that mean? I said we are perceived as unbiased, we're perceived as neutral, and we can be a vehicle for the POA to further its agenda by hitchhiking on that neutral status. We are independent of the POA's governance per se, and I think people would like to know that that independence can be to their advantage. Where the POA is currently engaged in what I will call long reach marketing, reaching out across America to draw people in to take a look. I like to think of us as in-person marketing because we're literally nose to nose with people who already have an interest in being here. And we think we can capitalize that in a way that advantages everyone. Are there any next steps in this relationship building? I think so. I would love to learn more about the marketing plans and strategies that are being formed around selling the assets. Well, I don't mean literally selling the sharing of the assets of the village. The governmental,
Affairs.
the GAC, yes, the Governmental Affairs Committee, of which I'm a non-voting member. I would like to be able to share with them the clout that comes with being a Chamber of Commerce. The clout meaning we have direct access to the Chamber of Commerce for the whole state and for the nation, where any GAC representing a POA may be seen as having an agenda, where anything that coming from a chamber organization is going to be perceived as more neutral than that. Other next steps, are there job overlaps? Are we doing things that you do? Are you doing things that we could help with? I don't know exactly, because I don't have a functional idea of what goes on inside the POA. But if there are opportunities, are we not getting economies of scale and making that effort to stop the duplication of any efforts? I would like to also find a way to take your amazing website, our amazing website, because I live here too, and turning that into how do we carve up pieces of that so that the neutral party represents certain information and the POA represents others. That way people from the outside look at this and say, they're not just trying to sell, the chamber is trying to inform. Is there an opportunity there? You tell me. I look at it this way. I guess I'm closing the sale now at the car dealership. I'm going to give you 3 choices on a checkbox today. You want to join forces and share assets, share resources so that we can both heighten our reach into the world that we want to? Or do you want to keep things the same? Or you want to just do your own thing, John, and we'll do ours. Thank you very much. You may leave. I know where my vote's going, is to join forces. I would love to work with all the departments in any way that we can help you. We're neutral. We're free. Use us. Yes, sir. Questions and answers.
I like your idea of us sending our complaints to you. I think that's wonderful.
We'll take it.
Because we get a few.
I bet.
But my real question is, what about collecting, you got 10 people a day coming through your door. What about collecting demographic information that we could use in our marketing program?
I think that's a brilliant idea. Without demographics, we all make conclusions that are unjustifiable. We like to generalize what information we do have. I'm a huge fan of demography. I have an undergraduate degree in industrial psychology, and I love studying the patterns that people make. I think that's a great idea. We don't do that now. We don't even capture their email address, and we should. And to the degree that we can make that an inviting process, I think people would give it up to that neutral party, where they might not give it up to you. So I'll take your suggestion, write it down. I think we need to start collecting
Well,
that.
here's your guy, right?
That's true. He's pointing at you, Charles. Sorry to call you Charles, Mr. King.
No, he's Charles.
East Charles?
East Charles.
Thank you for the comment. It's a great suggestion. We need to start doing that because then we can really build decision-making around reality, not everybody's guesses. Yeah.
The realtors do collect that information though.
Sometimes they do. It's not consistent on what they collect. They do have a form, but it's not mandatory to take your tour. And some agents are more persuasive than others at getting that information. Some people will put their name, address, and go, I'm just going to get a bunch of email. So they stop filling it out. So it's inconsistent on what we gather. But we could be better at it, if not even to offer an incentive to get that information. As you know, we only need 2 or 3 pieces of information. I can tell you, every friend you had since the 3rd grade for about 65 cents. But we'd rather gather it legitimately. Good point. Thoughts, comments? Been to the chamber lately? Yes, please.
Yeah, you talk about the chamber being the front door to the village. The front gate has always been known as the front gate, not the gate at Highway 7 or the west gate.
Front gate.
It's always been the front gate. So you could be, just suggestion, you could be the front door at the front gate
Oh, nice.
on Highway 7.
Oh, I like it. It's almost like poetic. I like it. Front door at the front gate.
Always been the front gate.
At least in '79, that's when you started here, right?
Well, I mean,
Thereabouts.
well, ever since they had a back gate, let's put it that way.
I
But
see.
you don't have to call it the back gate, you could call it the east gate.
The other gate.
Yeah.
Well, we are trying to get away from the vernacular between the east and the west, and identifying it by the highways is a
One
good
way.
place. And while you make that statement, Kirk, that it's always been known as the front gate,
That terminology has kind of gone away in the last decade, for real. I mean, people that have moved here in the last 10 years would not think of it as the front gate and the back gate. They think of it as the west gate and the east gate. Just like we carved up our village with Sobo and some of these other names, and we're the village, and we can't, at least this one board member's opinion is that we're all, if you had that topography map, we're all one village, and where our neighborhood is should not matter. And I think in light of the fact of the highway development that we're seeing, I think you're headed down the right path with the 7 and 5. That's going to be much easier to work with from a Google Maps standpoint too. And, because that would just feed right in. But you could hitchhike on that as wherever you can. But the demographics would be excellent, even if we didn't get to the point of getting someone's email. If we knew they were from Texas or Louisiana or Indiana or Carolinas or wherever, I think would be beneficial. And I thank you so much for this presentation today, because we've talked in various meetings about the chamber and how valuable the chamber is, but I don't think as a body we actually had this presented to us in this manner at all. And I just thank you for taking the time today to come out here and do this for us.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, everyone.
Madam Chair, we may have a couple interactive map tables he might be interested in.
Yes, we possibly do have those. We've got one that's sitting in the POA building that I've never seen it lit up.
And one from the,
Well, yeah, we don't need to go there. Okay, okay, thank you. I would like for you to leave a copy with Ella, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Pat. There's some people here that would like one of your cards. Did you bring any business cards with you today? Of course. Okay. Thank you. Now I would like, Stephanie, are you going to do this presentation? Or Mike? Together?
Together.
Okay.
We got it.
You just have to space out up here, that's all.
if somebody wants
To
to
use this mic, they can.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Well, thanks so much for having us today. As you recall, it was a month or maybe a bit more ago that we came with some preliminary findings about the condition of the Balboa Club. And with that, we gave you some updates on what we consider to be important priorities on the interior and the exterior of the building. And the board asked us at that time to come back with firmer numbers and be prepared to answer some questions. And so that's what we've done with one additional directive from John Paul while he was acting GM, which was to focus our attention on the outside of the building, forget about the inside for now. And so that's what we did. And so what you have in front of you today is a pretty basic outline of what myself and Mike Sikora, who's behind me, and he's over all of our building maintenance. He's the true expert in this matter. So when the questions come, I will reserve myself to the back wall and he can step forward. And then Tucker as well lent us his expertise. So thanks so much, Tucker. But what we believe, if the board is committed to keeping the Balboa Club as it is today, in its 20,000 square feet form, is that we have to address the exterior problems. That is where we have the major breaches in the EFIS system, where the water is penetrating those wall systems, panels, where the mold will grow, where we will continue to see further deterioration. And so that first box that you see on the back side of your panel is the cost that we have received. We've only received one bid until the board tells us to move beyond that. We won't do our competitive bidding process, but we do have at least one bidder at $60,995 for repair of the EFIS. There will be extensive patching, so you can't do that repair without repainting the building. And that cost is, I should put my glasses on, $83,611. We do believe that we need to power wash and replace some of the broken tiles on top of the building. We have stopped all of the water leaks, and I say we, like I had anything to do with it, not one bit. This guy fixed all of the leaks in the ceiling, not the ceiling, the roof tiles. And but there are some cracked and broken up there. We have a stockpile that we have to replace those with, so we don't have to purchase any tiles, but we do need to replace them, power wash and seal, and that's $3,000. And then some of the significant problems that are happening with the EFIS are directly related to the landscaping, the overgrown landscaping, and the proximity of the landscaping to the EFIS system. So we would definitely need to cut that back, remove some of that overgrown foliage there, and then refresh and replace that. Most of that done in-house, but there still would be a small cost there at $1,500. So subtotal for what we believe is the most important things to do on the exterior of the building, again, if the board so chooses to commit to keeping the Balboa Club in its present state, is $149,106. And then in the second box, you can see what other repairs need to be made, but depending on use, future, who, what, when, where. Window replacement, which I was really surprised. There's a lot of windows that have broken seals, and the number is pretty expensive, really, to replace those windows. So upstairs in the office area, when you go in that main building to the left, that would be about $3,500. Upstairs in the restaurant side, to the right, as you come in the front door, $10,750. Mike explains to me that part of that cost is a result of having to rent lifts, and is that what you call it?
You gotta have some kind of lift to get up there because the windows they don't come this way. You gotta take them to the outside to replace the windows. All your removable flanges are on the outside. So to get there, you gotta have some kind of lift for them to be up in that working area.
Mike, to your knowledge, those are original windows?
Yes, ma'am. Except for the ones that I have replaced.
Yeah, so they're how old?
86.
Okay. So they don't have any of the window properties for
Low E or
helping.
The windows
Yeah.
probably have low E. Tucker, you might more likely nothing. It's just back then.
But these new ones would.
Yes, it would be coming with a low E argon gas in.
Are you talking about window replacement or glass
Window pane replacement.
Just the glass in the window, just the glass, not the whole window
Frame is
frame.
fine.
Right.
I'm not overly surprised about it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of glass.
Well,
It's not easy to do.
Like Stephanie said, that is one bid, and we can go out, if we go forward, we can go out and get competitive bids with other, I've asked Arkansas, Larry down at Arkansas Glass to come up, and if this is where we want to go, he'll give us a proposal, and then there's other companies that we can get also, and it's just the pane of glass itself, the frame is fine.
So we haven't had any failure, because if we had failure.
If we would have had failure, we would have had leak.
Well,
So
they
we have-
failed because they got the.
Yeah, but the
film
seal,
inside,
but
yeah.
nothing that has
Nothing-
destroyed
no.
structurally, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not
Would you power wash the stone?
Yeah.
That's something that my team will do. The thing about that, we didn't put that in here, the tiles you can see are gonna be, power washed, so that's part of another bid that I have. The contractor that's doing the EIFS, while he's here, he will do the power washing of the tiles. The stone, I said we could do ourselves, and then at the same time, we can seal the grout joints so it doesn't suck in any moisture from the rain and stuff. Once we power wash, we can have a lift, because it's pretty high over there, get that power washed, and 2 days later, we can put a sealer over on the grout joints, the mortar joints and the rock.
They ain't telling us that painting price, I think I want to bid on that.
Two coats too.
I hope so.
Well, like I said, we don't have competitive bids yet. We have one, so it just gives you a sense. And if, again, if the board directs us, we will go through the whole RFQ process. Beyond that, so if you see the downstairs restaurants, the lounge area is $3,516. The golf shop area is $3,275. I'll stop there and say that if we were to take anything from the can happen over time and move it to the more urgent, it would be that just looks bad downstairs, and that is a space that's currently being used by our residents. So we would love to see that done, if not immediately, at least budgeted for next year. And then the deck and railing, that's upstairs. For those of you that have been in the building have seen, it's just very bad. It just needs to be changed. We've given you two prices there, one to replace it with treated lumber and one to go back with a composite decking. So about $1,600, $1,700 more if we went back with a composite that would last obviously much longer. And then parking lot ceiling and striping, estimated at about $14,000. That came from Jason's team. And then the entry door, we've done some repairs. Again, not fully necessary, it's just old. It's a little bit tired looking, so at some point would probably be nice to refresh that door.
Yeah.
But we have done some repairs to it so that it's not leaking. It's not, from an energy standpoint, we've sealed the door up and it's functional.
Yeah, couldn't believe that nobody had ever pointed out that we had about a 1-inch gap. 3/4 looked like an inch to me, but anyway, 3/4 of an inch gap in the front door that heat and air just been, every time the inner door was open. For those of you who can remember going to the Balboa Club, you have the exterior door, a foyer, and then another set of doors, and many, many times that other set of doors was open, left open, and the front door, even though it was locked, it still had this 3/4 of an inch gap that was just sucking the heat and air right out of the building. So if I'm looking at this, I'm seeing that I've got some costs here that do include our in-house. When I say that, I'm looking at the parking, the lot ceiling, and the striping. Jason, that's your internal cost?
Yes.
That's your guys?
No, that's contract.
That's contracted out.
The decks,
We could do the striping though, right? Now with the striping machine?
We could.
We could. But, one of the things that, we were just talking earlier today in an executive meeting, and one of the things that came up was, we have failed as a board in the past of having proper, Joni calls them processes, I call them procedures, it's the same thing, of, how does the work flow through, and who's in charge, and what's doing this and what's doing that. And when we get these cost estimates, to me, it's one thing to be looking at contracted costs. That's great to know that. But for me to make a decision, and I'm only one vote, I need to know the total cost. And that means, how much if we put people working on this project, we've taken them off of working on something else. So there is a cost to the project, even if it's an internal cost. And I think we've lost sight of that here in this.
Well, you're right. The one and only place that you're gonna find that we would have in-house labor that is not accounted for in this is the landscaping that I mentioned, and the deck. So the deck is material only.
And the power washing.
No, the power washing is actually contracted, the roof tiles, that's a contract.
That's the roof tile though, that's not that huge outdoor building.
You're right.
You know, it's gonna take those guys, I mean, I don't know how many guys, 2 days, how many guys?
Two, one running the lift and one doing the basket, doing the power washing.
And we can put a
So
full,
that's some chemical involved.
Yep, but we have to buy it, we're using it for that instead of for another project, so it's project cost.
And if I can, I think what Diane is getting to is that I think in the future, we need to have that differentiation between what is going to be the total cost of the project, even knowing that it's probably going to be an estimate on the internal amount of money that's going to be spent. But if we approve something, we need to be approving it as an aggregate, not parts and pieces.
If I can. Just like the deck and the painting of the rails over there. When you go into taking that deck up, I would put 2 guys over there, and you're out giving you an estimate of manpower, what it would take. If that project is not stated, saying I gotta have it done by August 5th. So what I do in my department with taking care of all the 168 buildings, each day that someone sends me something, I'm putting it in line with what we're doing, and when I'm gonna have time to take 1 or 2 guys, because it'd take 2 guys to go over there and pull the boards off. They cut them off, get the nails clean, get the boards clean. We block the door off. There's 1 door going, 2 doors going out there, but we can block the doors off so no one can go out there and fall through the rail or the deck frame. And then we can go back in amongst time of when I have time to send someone over there to start laying the new boards down. It's not a project unless we have something going on that we have to jump on and get it done right now. I throughout all of what we do, if it's a light bulb, Bob, my electrician, comes over here and he'll spend, 3 days over here, 2 days over there, wherever he goes. That's his job. I send him out, he goes. And it's the same with what I call my carpenters in my group, is the fact of getting them out. And today they're fixing to return air chase. Tomorrow they might be pulling deck boards up for 2 days. And then I leave it and we come back and we fill in. And that's the way I run the whole program, for the simple fact that we're 6 guys. And we go out and try to keep everything functional going.
I think I understand that, and I really recognize that that's the way you have to run the program. But when we're doing a big project like this, we as a board, I believe, need to know what we're approving in terms of total cost, and then we need to track it that way too. We're not going to get it down to the exact dollar, but we're going to come pretty darn close as to what our material and labor costs were, whether they were internal or external.
we can certainly do that. I've, as everybody knows, been here a long time. I've done it that way, and I've done it the other way. And it depends on who's directing us to do what. We've done it where we cost account out every hour that a piece of equipment is used. We can do that. We can track fuel. We can track labor hours. We can track it however you like. So, like you said, soft and hard costs, and absolutely, we can certainly.
Because I think you're going to get some direction from the F&P committee on this, and from our treasurer on costing, on what we need to see, because it affects our cash flow.
Sure.
And that's what it's all about, is managing that cash flow.
Yeah, and while we're talking about cash flow, thank you for the segue. We had an approval for the Woodlands project to be done like this, outside like we're talking now. Where are we in that process? And, where are we in that process?
We did the RFQs on it, and I turned it back into Terry Allgood, and Stacy Hoover is in the process of getting colors, changing these colors and getting approval for the colors on the building. And Mr. Oaks, who got the contract, is waiting for us to give him colors to go.
So we've spent none of that money?
None.
And what was, do you remember from F&P, you or Wayne, does anybody remember what that dollar figure was that we?
I think it was.
had in the budget?
190?
195.
Somewhere in that range.
We,
What was it?
195,000.
195K?
we approved that already to go forward?
Well,
It was in the budget.
I know that.
But I understand that. No, we haven't approved that yet. We're still waiting for that to come back to the board to get board approval.
yeah. So my point in all this is we've got that one backed up. We're talking about this one now. The cash flow, particularly in this day and time, we've got to know at some point, Wayne and I talked about this, we talked with Charles about this yesterday. We've got to have a schedule of these things that we're going to do and whether or not we can get to them. Because it's great to sit here and talk about the fact we need to do these things, but if our cash flow is not going to be there, then we're wasting all of our time.
Well, I wonder if we couldn't save a little bit of money if we power wash the tile on in-house as well. I mean, I don't want you up there, Mike. Anybody your size standing on those clay tiles could be a problem, but maybe you had a lightweight.
That's peanuts, Kirk.
Yeah, you're talking $3,000 out of 217.
No, I'm not talking peanuts.
We have
Do I
power washing.
Do I have the floor?
Yes, but I'm saying that it is peanuts because you're talking $3,000 out of $149,106. That isn't going to make a bit of difference.
If I could talk without being interrupted, I would appreciate it, Diana. The EFS is the same thing. You got $195,000 on the Woodlands. You got the mold on there. All you got to do is power wash it. A little chemical, that thing will look brand new. The DeSoto Club's the same way. I've power washed EFS plenty of times without painting it. You want to save $400,000, or do you want to just send it?
The thing with this building here, if I don't mind, it's got spiderweb cracking around it. You can walk all around this, all around the auditorium, and there's spiderweb cracking on that, on the old EFS that's there.
95%.
You just paint over it, you power wash it, which he's gonna do, you power wash it, you still have the cracks that'll come through that paint. And that's from 2 different guys that come in and give us bids on that they have to repair.
How many spider cracks though? Is it on 95%, 100%, or on 2%?
70.
Kirk, you will have your chance to vote when we vote on it.
And we can walk this building. I'll take anybody around.
This is
and
a
show the
discussion.
building.
This
And
is
then-
not a vote.
And then on the Balboa Club, backside, which would be the west end, is full of golf ball holes. And anything that comes down to the ground, they've hit it with weed eaters. All that has to be repaired. But you have golf ball holes, not one. You got hundreds of golf ball holes. Because I'm maybe put a couple in there myself.
No, you always hit it to the right.
Oh, that's true, sir. But there's golf ball holes all over that building that have to be repaired. And when you go in on an EFS wall, if that golf ball hole is here, you do from that wall to this wall to get the patch to match up. You brown coat it, and then you put the new EFS on there to get it to match up. Otherwise, it looks like a patch.
A patch is a $400,000 patch. We don't have to do the whole wall to cover one golf ball hole. And that's my point. Unless you just want to spend the money, that's fine.
Well, it's like this hole that we had in the wall right here, when they carved back through this wall from that post to the end of the wood that I put on here. When that man back through there, we fixed from that column to the end. We redid all the EFS on the outside, and that's what it looks like with the new brown coat and the new EFS sand put on there. And you can just walk outside and look at the difference. And if you just power wash this section, because it's the same color, if you just power wash this section from that post to this post, you'll see the big difference. It will not match.
Well, you know,
And that's
it's like our pickleball courts. The patches aren't going to match perfectly either. But it's a lot cheaper than going ahead and stripping up the old stuff and putting new. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Diana, if I might.
Yes, would you like to say something?
I do, just one more thing. So the last meeting, when we presented, because you mentioned the cost and the approval of this particular project here at Woodlands, I actually asked the same thing. Had we let that contract to go? And I didn't think that the board had given us approval to spend that money yet, but Dan at the time, Ilward, said that we had. So we might need clarification on our end about what we need to be doing.
Yeah,
I don't think that I think we've gotten a bit of a mixed signal there about if we're supposed to release that contract and let that work begin, or if it still needs to come back to the board.
No, I think that there has been some confusion here, because I think what we're talking about is the chart that was done that had the green versus the yellow versus the red.
Oh, yeah.
And just because it was green, it was scheduled to be done, but it still had to go for approval. And my point in all this is we've got all of these items, and we need to be understanding whether or not the cash flow is going to be handled, because we're backing projects up here now, is what we're basically going to be doing.
Sure.
And we've got to get out ahead of that with the cash flow.
Which
That's my
you recognize
only point.
this happens every year?
I've been here a long time.
Yeah, it happens every year about this time. We put together a budget based on a revenue projection that we don't meet. This year, we've been further hampered by the COVID situation. And while we did get the 3.2 and the PPP money to help us with our wages and that sort of thing, and all the PPP stuff that we had to, we got the grants and we got all that, we just gotta make sure that if we do a project, that we can write the check
Sure.
to pay for it, or are we gonna be using some reserve money to pay for it? That's the decision that we as the board have to be able to make. You guys have given us a fantastic outline here today. I personally am concerned about having the Balboa Clubhouse building go through another winter. We've been lucky with the last 3 winters being rather mild. We are lucky that we don't have a roof that leaks at this point in time. I thank you, Mike, for getting the skylight, whatever you did to it to stop the leaking there and stop the interior damage to the walls there. But we're at a discussion point here. I'm going to say that I think that this needs to go to the Finance and Planning Committee. I don't know what your agenda looks like for next Tuesday, but to take a look at those green light items and find out where we stand on the green light items.
I believe we said we were meeting in 2 weeks, did we not, Wayne?
Correct.
So you're going to meet the night before our business meeting.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is that a challenge for us?
It is.
We'll be fine. It'll be the same as like the backhoes.
Yeah, I don't like, this is just me personally, I don't like this kind of money being decided at the last minute.
Wayne, we may need to reconsider whether or not we hold a meeting next week. We've got several items on the agenda already.
How did this become an emergency already? I mean, really, we've been talking about this, we don't even have good estimates yet. We've got a good.
I'm talking about not this, I'm talking about the green light items that we've had for the last several months.
Okay.
Of which I believe the Woodlands is on.
Huh?
Not this particular project.
Okay.
I mean, one of the things, Diana, if you'll recall, during last year's, I don't remember which session, but there was a session when it was asked of staff to build a facility condition and needs assessment.
Yes.
So that the board did have a more holistic approach to decision making when these kinds of things came up. You didn't have a mechanism at the time to prioritize, understandably, right? You're constantly being thrown this. Is this an emergency? Is it not an emergency? Do we need to do it? Do we not? And where does it fall in our list of priorities? So that is not complete. It's being worked on and through all kinds of different reasons this year, as you can imagine.
Yeah, we were going to try to get that to August, but obviously we're not going to make August, but do you think we'll be able to make September on that?
I'd love to visit with Mr. King about his thoughts on that as well, and then we've got a new employee in accounting that's building a database around it right now. Where she is, I'm uncertain. We have done the legwork So Mike and his teams, we have done the evaluation on every single building. Right now, we're trying to put it in a format and in a way that it's usable so we can pull and extract data as is requested by you guys when you're
Yeah,
making a decision.
that's probably gonna lead us more into the 2021 planning.
Probably.
At this point in time, but I think we've got to get a handle on our cash flow for what we project for the next few months and on all these green light items, because staff is going to have direction from us, the board.
Yeah, the issue with the cash flow is that we have no tool to do a cash flow modeling in the existing setup. So it's going to be difficult to have something that concrete coming out of finance and planning or out of the financial department right now. But we've got to get to that kind of a point somehow. We'll take it up in the finance and planning committee.
I mean, even if if I put this in terms of an individual homeowner, which is not anywhere near that simplistic, but there's things I got to do to take care of my property.
Right.
And I've got some money in savings, which we have money in reserve. And I just think that we need to think about, okay, if the cash flow isn't there, can we live as a board with making a decision to take care of some of the exteriors of our facilities by using some reserve dollars?
Correct.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think we can answer that, but it'll be probably after September. August is our crunch time for cash flow, and golf is, the preliminary for golf looks like it's going to be a good month, but not as good as last month, and nowhere near what it was in 2019, but we had the golf carts thrown into that. So until we get some better numbers, I think we'll be able to answer that for you. And as far as the green list, the red list, and the yellow, it was mandated to me that if it was green, that didn't mean to give you approval to spend it. You still had to bring it in front of the F&P committee, who would then make a recommendation to the board for final approval.
And again, the missing component is the cash flow model. It's difficult to make these kinds of decisions without doing what you're talking about. We need to know what the balance is today. We need to know what's coming in next month, the month after that, the month after that. We need to know what we're going to spend this month, this month, this month. And we need to know where we're going to end up at the end of the year. That is a tool we do not have right now. It's absolutely necessary that we get one as soon as we can.
Yeah, but I'm looking at this building here that we're sitting in today. And this will be the third year that we kick it that we kick this can down the road if we don't do anything this year. And our window for physically doing this is closing because of weather.
Talk about this one.
This building that we're sitting in, right here.
I'd like to find out why it's cracked all the bases, and if it's gonna do it again, if we spend $190,000, we're gonna have this conversation 5 years from now because it's cracked again. I have never figured out why it cracked the first time.
I don't think that there's a whole lot of water getting through polyurethane 1-inch foam anyhow. I think that you do need to power wash it before you paint it. And I'd like to see what it looked like after it was power washed and then decide whether it needs painting or not.
Well, that's not my problem. The problem is I'm trying to figure out why it's cracked. It just doesn't make sense, and is it gonna crack again? I'd like to have somebody.
Can I bring Mr. Oaks over here, who, that's what he does for a living, and we discuss it with him, a few of the board members, and...
I think that you and Tucker can go discuss it with
Well,
him.
then, why did it crack though?
Yeah.
Is it because it has no backing behind it? I mean, when we tore this
Put a
apart...
Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
You're right, but when we tore this apart, this part of the building's new. It's not with that part down there, but this had the gyp board that we used to put on it, steel studs, jit board, and then 1 inch foam.
That's what's on here?
That's what's on this part of the building.
But this building,
That's when
this
we
section
took
was
that
built
tore apart, that was what
15
was
years
there.
after.
Yeah, this is a later part of the building. This was added on to that, the watchtower rooms. This cart was added on.
Is this cracked all pieces too?
No, this is not.
So what's the difference? That one don't have the jit board?
Don't know.
Oh.
I'd have to go in there and cut a section of it.
And also, is spider cracking something that's terribly uncharacteristic of ephes to begin with?
You cannot have cracks in ephes because the ephes, exterior of the ephes is the waterproofing. If you get water, moisture inside that, the walls, any wood structure behind that will rot down, will rot out.
Yeah, I know they're real strict on around windows and doors.
Well, the reason they're strict on around windows and doors is because that's an opening in the wall, and a crack in the wall is an opening too. Water will penetrate that crack just like it would around the window.
Oh, I thought you were talking about just spider cracks on the.
Crack, period. It's spider cracking. There's no big crack down the wall. It is spider cracking. There's one place on this canopy right here that we gotta get repaired, and it's got to do with the flashing. But that's the biggest thing that we have is just the spider cracking around it.
I always tell people that there's no such thing as a stupid question, but this may be a stupid question. Could any of this have been caused by the fact that we didn't properly maintain the building and we didn't keep it protected against weather and we didn't keep it painted?
This is a one-time deal unless you want to spruce it up.
You clean
I know
it,
Tucker did
you
a house
don't
of his own.
maintain it. You clean it, you don't maintain it. Mike, just get it set up and let's look at it with the guy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
My last invitation, if there's any, and I know for sure Ms. Corey and Ms. Avila may or may not have been to the Balboa Club. If anybody hasn't been and wants to take a tour and be able to see what we're talking about, I'm happy to do that with you.
And the windows are etched with tape on them so you can see what.
Which ones need to be
windows are
replaced?
bad That would keep the prices on.
So if you haven't been over there, Pam, have you been in there? Pam's been in there. Joni, have you been in there? Have you been upstairs? Have you been around in there?
a while, but yeah.
Well, if you'd like to go, just get a hold of either Stephanie or Mike or Jason or anybody. But the bottom line is, you guys, we can't sell dented cans here. If we were a grocery store, we can't sell dented cans. And the appearance of these large buildings are important to the appearance of the village. Okay. Tucker, did you want to talk to us about the lawn mowing that we need to discuss so that it can become part of our business meeting on the 19th?
Yes, Jason, did you want to talk to us about the lawn mowing? He knows it all, I just said.
Thanks, Jason.
Every year, the Arkansas Natural Resource Commission requires us to bush hog our dams so we can do an inspection for structural integrity, seepage, things like that. So every year, we usually contract out the bush hogging or mowing to a group of bush hoggers. And last year, we hired Millsap Brothers. And in the process of that bid, we included in the specifications that the POA could have the option, if we chose to renew that contract for this year. And based on the pricing that they gave us last year, it was about $1,800 per dam, and we have 14 dams. Balboa has 2 here in the village, and for a total of at least $25,200, they do it all. They also do the spillways. They'll also do on the face of the dams, trimming out the tree debris and things like that, and some weed control. And so we are proposing to, instead of going out for bids again, to propose just renewing that contract at the exact same price as last year's price to the same contractor. And so that's what we wanted to do, is get it before the board in a discussion format so that it can be presented at the board for approval. We would like to do that work sometime in September, no later than October. So we have time.
So you're asking for 25.2?
Yes, ma'am. And that is out of operational budget funds.
this is something we have to do.
Yeah, this is probably one of the green lights. that we
This
just
would
have.
be one of the green lights that we would have to do, Wayne.
Well, it's an ongoing expense out of his budget, but there is a contract, so we thought it would be best to bring it to the board because somebody's going to have to approve the contract.
Right.
Good enough.
Good enough. We'll put it on the agenda for the August 19th.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jason. I hope you don't need any money for anything else. We're running out of money. No. Lots and lots of money. It happens every year at this time. I mean, it really, really does. This has been going on for, Tucker, long time that we start spending the next year's money in the current year. And then we look forward to the annual amenity fees being paid to help pay the bills in January. And we've been doing this for a long time, so getting us into this position where we monitor things from a cash flow basis, we've made a lot of headway in the last few months, the last 4 months, but and thanks to people like Dan and Wayne and Lloyd and his committee, we've made a lot of progress, and but we've got a ways to go too. But I wanted to talk to you all for just a minute about committee meetings. There seems to be some confusion or something about our committees. Our committees are designed to both assist the board and the staff. Our committees are all organized by a charter, well-written charters, where we're available to those committees for any changes that they feel that they need to make in the charters. And every committee has a committee chair. The committee chair has the responsibility for running their meeting. They set the agenda, they arrange for any guest speakers, whatever they need to be doing with that committee, and they usually have a co-chair also to help them. Vice chair. Then we have a staff member to the committee, and they bring into that committee things that are going on in the world of the staff and what they might need that committee to help them with. And then we have the board committee member to the committee, and we go in there and we bring them what's going on with the board, what does the board need from that committee, what does that committee need from the board, and kind of meld that all together. I think we have had a couple of committees that have looked upon these committee meetings as being more or less run by staff. The staff can have all their meetings they want to have. They can have a staff meeting, they can schedule those all they want. Charles is running the staff. Board's got nothing to do with what staff is doing. But anyway, I just want to make that clear so that everybody understands. And then with the COVID-19 situation, we have this room set up today in this manner. Now, I'll grant you, those COVID directives that they come out, they're confusing. You know, and I have here somewhere in this pile of paperwork where I went and did some research, and Lloyd has done some research, and Charles has done research, and staff has done research, and I ended up talking with some folks, a very nice lady at the Arkansas Department of Health. And what needs to go on for your meetings, whether it be a committee meeting or a board meeting, we have to have 6 feet spacing. We don't have to have 12 feet spacing. And we can have our mask off with 6 feet spacing. When we get up and leave the room and move around, that's when we have to have a mask on. Our speaker, any speaker that we have, has to be 12 feet away from us so that they don't speak on us. I mean, that's what she told me. We're not having performances
Can we
here.
see that in writing?
I've got 2 directives from the Department of Health. And
You're speaking right now, and if you were 6 feet from somebody else, I mean, I'm speaking. If we're 6 feet away with no masks, I'd like to see that in writing.
I have it right here. And thank you for questioning my abilities to speak to the Arkansas Department of Health and report what I have found and insinuate that I am making something up. I find that very destructive that you would speak to another board member in that way.
Just
Thank
like
you.
to see it in writing, that's all.
It's been in writing all along, Kirk.
Anyway, if I can continue, then when we get up and move around, we have to have our mask on. That's the deal. When we're walking outside and in places and you're going to come in close contact with somebody, you have to have your mask on, which is why at the pickleball courts we have a rule that when you get out of your car to please place your mask on, because our walkways are narrow there. Our sidewalks are rather narrow, and we are playing pickleball down there where a lot of people are arriving about the same time. We have a 7:30 game and a 9:30 game and then a 6 p.m. game. So that's the issue with the mask. When you're going to be close to somebody, you have to have the mask on. Otherwise, if you're 6 foot distancing, you do not have to have your mask on. So, does anybody else have anything else that they'd like to add today? Yes, Lloyd.
Well, not to that, but I do have 2 items that I'd
Okay, very good.
The F&P committee met yesterday, and the schedule would call for a budget presentation to basically be made to the board and to the public in October, so that we can approve the budget in November. Hopefully we will see iterations of that before then, but just so that everybody knows that we're shooting for an October public display of what the budget looks like for 2021. Okay? In addition, the work group, one of the work groups is starting, and they've just completed it with the Recreation Department, a budgeting session, work session, educational session, showing people what we expect for them during the budgeting process, how the budgeting process should proceed. It's educational in nature. And I would suggest that each of the board members get into that loop and attend one of those sessions, which have not yet been put out yet, have they, Wayne, except for the last one?
Right.
So we will try and make sure you're CC'd on that, but I highly recommend that each of you attend a session so that you can see what's being given to the staff in terms of some guidance on budgeting.
Thanks, because I think that would help us understand what they present to us. Tucker.
I just wanted to say something for the people in the room that don't know. Stephanie and Mike were asked to gather this information for the board on the Balboa Club. I think they may have got the feeling or people may have got the feeling that they came to the board with these recommendations. We actually asked them to come up with what needed to be done. They didn't come to us wanting us to do this. We asked them to do so, and I think the appearance was that they were asking us to do it, and we were telling them we can't, we need to see money. Well, that's not actually the way it played out.
Thank you, Tucker, for that clarification, because that's important for the community to understand that this was information that the board was seeking. Yes, Joni.
I'm the newbie, okay? Is this where I bring up the charter changes for the Recreation Committee?
Yeah.
Should I do that now?
Go ahead.
Okay. And I only need to read the parts that are going to change?
Yeah.
Okay. Organization and appointments. A, the committee shall consist of a minimum of 11 and not more than 13 members of the Property Owners Association in accordance with the bylaws of Article 12. B, committee members shall be appointed in accordance with bylaws Article 12, Section 4, for staggered 3-year terms. Appointments made to fill a vacancy shall serve the balance of the term vacated. E, a secretary shall be elected by the committee to record minutes of all meetings and submit them per Section 7A. Under Roman numeral 4, duties and responsibilities, for marinas and boat slips will be added. D, to coordinate with the Recreation Department, the bi-monthly newcomer coffee, that has been moved to the Marketing Department. So that's no longer in there. So the new D becomes to review and make recommendations to the POA staff on any topic brought to the committee by the Director of Recreation. Limitations, we had no changes. Reports, Roman numeral 7, reports, approved minutes of meetings shall be submitted to the Office of the Corporate Secretary for distribution and filing. And finally, B, the annual report of committee activity to be completed in accordance with bylaws, Article 12, Section 4, Section J.
Does that conflict with what we're actually doing in practice in regarding the submission of the minutes? We're
No.
okay with that? We're good with that? You just get them and you forward them on to her?
No, we actually both get them.
You both
so,
get 'em?
Yeah, we're all with that.
Okay.
I've reviewed this and I approve it.
Okay,
We make sure we both get them.
okay. Very good. Okay, so then that'll come as an agenda item at the business meeting for us to,
We have to create a motion for it.
yeah, we'll have a motion and we'll vote on that at the business
Okay.
meeting.
If you want help with that.
Yeah, you can contact Marcy and she'll help you write your motion.
You may want to apply a
Because
red line.
we don't actually conduct business in the discussion session.
Sure.
We just, now we know that, you know, I don't, does anybody have any discussion that they'd like to ask Joni about these changes to the charter? Sounds to me like you're just making them reflect what's in Article 12 as it has been changed, and then updating it for actual practices that are going on
Yeah.
with the committee. And
The idea was to change the wording so it would be the articles and sections.
Right.
So if they change, you don't have to change the charter.
Very good, yeah.
And one more question. The 2 new Recreation Committee members will be on the...
They'll be part of the consent agenda
Perfect.
at the business meeting.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Marcy?
Madam Chair, this is a topic that you actually brought up a long time ago, and it's coming up again regarding board committee members and staff committee members being voting. And also, in addition to that, are the board committee member and staff committee members part of the charter limits on the number of committee members? And we're being asked that by 2 committees I know right now that they consider themselves working committees, and they feel that the board person and the staff person should be in addition so that they could get 2 other property owners that would be working.
As a carryover from last year, the intent, now whether the verbiage is there or not, I don't know, but the spirit and the intent was that the board member and the staff members would be in addition to.
So I think a couple of the committees don't know that, so we'll let them know that. Also, the influence of the board members and staff members voting, that was,
Well,
you brought that up before.
I have brought that up on several occasions. We had discussed previously that was when we talked about Article 12 in business meetings, we had discussed previously that that was the providence of the board, and, I don't know what Charles wants to do with his staff or how the staff members want to view it. They have the authority to vote by the bylaws. I personally took it as my position as on the board, on the committee on which I serve, which is the Governmental Affairs Committee, that I do not vote at the committee level, that I reserve my vote for at the board level. But that doesn't mean that anybody else has to take that position for their committees. Do you feel, board members, that we need to revisit this and change, possibly bring a motion to change the bylaw Article 12 again to take away those voting privileges? I mean, anybody has the right as a board member to bring forth that motion.
Well, on the ACC, they added to, and actually Stephanie and I are the board and the staff members. I'm not, I've made it clear on the front end, I'm not gonna be a working ACC member. But we do have 5 people that are villagers. I mean, if we're gonna have 2 on there like her and I do agree that we need the other 5 members. And that's why we took it to 7. But
So how do you feel on the voting issue?
I could care less. Do you know how I am? I could care less.
I think it really
There's
bites.
5 people to vote, that's good enough for me, it's worked for
I
20,
agree
30
with
years.
Diana that the board member doesn't need to be voting at the committee level.
Or the staff member, really.
The issue, I think, is that it's not clear in the bylaw as to whether it's interpreted that they are voting members.
Yeah, it says in the bylaw that they are voting members.
So-
That happened before this board, yeah.
Yeah.
If they're not a voting member, why are they a member?
Well, before they used the term liaison.
Yeah.
And when they used the term liaison, just a little historical thing here, then there were some staff liaisons and some board liaisons that didn't really participate in the committee meetings. They didn't talk. They didn't, I mean, if you're not going to participate and you're not going to answer or ask any questions to try to learn what's going on in the committee, why are you there? So that's why the verbiage got changed from liaison to member, so that the staff person and the board person would both feel comfortable to interact with the committee people, with the committee members.
Yes, but what you've already described separates the staff and the board committee member from the other committee members, because they don't vote.
They do vote.
But they do vote.
Okay, so.
I personally choose not to vote.
Okay, but, now I lost my train of thought. Darn, that's what happens when you get old. So, the differentiation between the liaison, at least on the Governmental Affairs Committee, the role of the liaison was really important because they were to carry information back and forth. And you basically eliminated that differentiation and that key role by calling them members. And when I was chair of the Governmental Affairs Committee and now had 2 new members, one from the board, one from the staff, I took it to mean that those people should carry exactly the same responsibilities as the other committee members and have tasks and have assignments just like every other committee member.
Well, but Article 12 also defines what the responsibilities are of the board members on the committee. And those responsibilities say that they are to bring the information back and forth and to advise the standing committee of POA board actions and upcoming issues of interest to the committee. The responsibilities never changed, just the word changed, the noun changed.
And the voting issue.
And the voting issue changed.
Well, you said what I think. I don't think Stephanie and I only say that because she's in here and we're on the ACC together, and we fill those two positions. I don't think she would, and I know I wouldn't have any problem speaking my mind in those meetings, whether I was a voting member or not. I'm gonna say what I think. No different than I do today.
Well,
And I think she would too. She's, we're there because we have some.
I don't really think we have a problem with the member idea, other than clarifying that we are members in addition to the other number of members that you're allowed to have on each committee, which is determined by their each particular committee's charter. I think the issue is that a previous board decided that we needed voting privileges at the committee level.
Exactly.
And put that in the bylaw, and this board hasn't done anything about changing that. And so, Wayne, yes?
Well, before I was chair of the Finance and Planning, I thought it was appropriate to have the board member and the staff member be able to be like a committee member and vote. And I saw our board member abstain on a few things and vote for a few things, same thing with staff. I think it's an individual choice of the board member or staff member whether they want to participate in the vote. But they're committee members, and they should be considered committee members and have that option to be able to vote.
That's a good point. And that's why it's in here, because you always, whether you're on a committee or you're a part of the board, any issue that comes up that requires a vote, you always have the right to abstain, to not vote.
Then I think the issue is, the last one, then, is that we need to make clear to the committees that they can fulfill their
numbers,
excluding those two positions, because I know two of them that don't understand that.
Okay, so Ella, would you write a directive that we as the board send that out to clarify that communication? I believe that we would just have to send that to each committee chair.
Yeah, that they can maximize.
They can maximize out their number
on their charter.
On the charter, excluding the staff and board members to their committee.
Okay, if some of them.
Some of them are not, that's not right. It's
The
not gonna
Public
work.
Services Committee changed their charter to increase the number, but they specified in there that includes the board member and the.
Well,
just go one way or another. That's why we gotta get out of charters.
They either need to change their charter to do that, or they, we're making this really complex.
Yeah, we just need to get all the charters together and we'll work on
They
it.
should refer to the bylaws so that we don't have to keep changing charters.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They all should be the same.
They should be the same.
So there's a couple lagging behind, so.
So, can you help us get that communicated out and clarified? And then maybe we'll know exactly how many openings we have out there.
Right.
And if we need to go beat the drums and get some more people to get on our committees. Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have anything for us today, Dick, from Golf or Lakes?
Whatever Tucker said.
Whatever Tucker said? He didn't say whatever you said, Lloyd. He said whatever Tucker said. Kirk, do you have anything from your committees? It looks like, had a good committee meeting with the Common Properties and Forestry and Wildlife the other day. Cheryl Dowd did a nice write-up on that.
Yeah, I think they want to bring a couple of new members up to vote for at the business meeting.
Okay. And Ella said she had that, so that'll be on the consent agenda, so we'll have that. Trails, have you met recently, or you got a meeting with Trails coming up? Are they okay? Are they full committee?
Yeah, I think they are, and they put a path connecting the Hernando Trail just in the last couple of days here, rerouting it around that property that was sold to Cooper, or sold to from the reserve property.
Right. Okay, yeah, I think I saw some equipment in there, they may still be working on that just a little bit, but, anyway, and your committee with the marketing is gonna come to us, the marketing subcommittee is coming to us at the discussion session next week to bring about the idea of splitting them out of finance and planning committee and being their own standalone committee. So you'll have lots of stuff for us next month, right? Ray's gonna come.
Ray's coming,
Ray's coming. So it'll be whatever Ray said?
absolutely. He's the chair.
He's the chair. That's right. There you go. Very good. I think that concludes today's discussion session. We're wrapping up a few minutes before 4. We did a good job. I want to thank everybody today. It was a long day. And Charles, welcome to our world and the board. We're sorry. These meetings do get a little verbose.